Ah, my prince! Greetings, my boy. It has been some time since last you graced my library with your presence. I hope you have been keeping well. What's that? Zingaran nobles are back at court beseeching your father in an attempt to garner his support in their political games. Yes, it can be quite difficult to stomach their flowery, prideful ways. Come, let me teach you a thing or two while you are here. Knowledge is the best weapon one can be armed with in this world. Perhaps it will serve you when you return to the court. Zingara. Zingara is a fertile land, rich in nature's bounty. It lies beyond the Poitanian mountains to our south and borders Argos on the west. The Black, Alamein, and Thunder rivers bind borders on the entire country and make the Zing River Valley extremely fertile, only exceeded perhaps by the plains of Palos in Argos. The land has always been a boon for people, and indigenous populations have existed there since the Thurian Age came to a cataclysmic end. The Zing people were there during the reign of hateful Acheron, and they were there when the Hybori came down out of the north in a storm of conquest and blood. The Hyborians mixed with the native people of Zing, as well as mixing with Pictish raiders coming down from the north. And the result was the Zingara, a proud, dusky people of quick temper and prideful temperament. They have a firm love of honor, loyalty, and family, but these high ideals are poisoned by a pervasive machismo and pride. The Zingarans are passionate in their love, terrible in their anger. They are fierce in their friendship and enduring in their enmity. They are a people of extremes, my prince, not of climate but of temperament, swinging through the whole suite of their emotions in an instant. To the Zingarans, it is important to live life well, to make a name for yourself, to further the influence of your family, and to take care of your loved ones. The history of Zingara is in many ways a mirror of Argos, though any proud Zingaran would take great offense at such a statement. The Zingarans coalesced around a number of city-states, each one ruled by a local princeling. These princelings use a suite of barons and counts to rule the surrounding countryside for them, and nominally each of them swear fealty to the king of Cordova. Cordova is the capital of Zingara, but we will speak more of that wondrous city later, my prince. For now, it is enough to know that the cities of Zingara have more or less ruled themselves to varying degrees over their long history. Sometimes, a strong king will rise and manage to bring the princes to heel. Other times, civil strife between the nobles of Zingara is common. That is the current status quo within the nation, my prince, and why their nobles continually harry your father's ear for support in their games. The nation is a hotbed of civil war, and each noble looks for any advantage they can gain over their fellows. King Fredrugo currently rules from Cordova, though in name only. Yes, my prince, you remember King Fredrugo from our lesson on Argos. The good king of Zingara invaded the land of Argos some years back, hoping to use the war to overcome the growing division between his nobles. Sadly for King Fredrugo, he was defeated by the Argosi, and the tension between the nobles of Zingara only grew worse. Today, they war among one another using armies of well-paid mercenaries and an endless repertoire of political intrigue. We are lucky that Zingara factors little into our foreign policy. They have little to offer the rest of Hyboria beyond the lush, fertile nature of their homeland. Perhaps If they could stop squabbling with one another, they could produce enough grain to rival even Argos for exports, but unfortunately, the nobility of Zingara are far too preoccupied with their internal intrigues to properly manage the land. What resources are produced, the nobles hoover up for themselves to increase the influence, wealth, and status of their family. You would do well to emulate your father in your future dealings with Zingara, my prince. There is little profit in involving ourselves in their internal affairs, unless the entire nation were to be brought to heel. An organized, concerted effort to tame the passionate Zingaran feuds and farm the land could result in a breadbasket able to feed Aquilonia eternally. But you must be wary, my prince. The Zingarans are supremely skilled with the blade, and they never forget a slight. A conquest of their land would surely be costly in men and gold, and it could never be easily held. The Zingarans are a fiery people. Ruling them would likely result in a cycle of conquest and rebellion which would nullify our ability to utilize the land's latent prosperity. It will be upon you to choose, my prince, when you ascend to the throne. Only your wisdom will be able to discern the path for our burgeoning kingdom. You see now why these lessons are so important. Where was I? Yes, Zingara. Zingara has always been a land dominated by the sea. Like Argos, its entire western border comprises the Western Ocean, and the rivers which dominate the Zing Valley make for ready highways for the transportation of goods and people. Indeed, Zingaran sailors are some of the best in the world, every bit a match for their Argosi counterparts, though the Argosi navy is far more powerful. The disparate noble houses of Zingara are too often at each other's throats for a national navy to function as an organized unit, but the people of Zingara are born to the sea. Zingaran ports are attractive destinations for traders from as far away as Shem and Stygia, and many of them are absurdly rich. They build magnificent architecture to reflect their wealth, and Zingara has some of the most beautiful urban areas in Hyboria. This wealth, of course, attracts those who wish to take it for their own. Zingaran pirates are a common danger up and down the western coastline of Hyboria. Your father once captained a Zingaran pirate vessel, my prince. Yes, your father was not always royalty, and his more common days were rife with conflict and plunder. He still speaks of those days with fondness, though I think perhaps the passage of time has left his memory rose-colored. But I digress. Zingaran pirates organize into their own pseudo-nation, and they claim a chain of islands known as the Barakan Isles as the seat of their power. The Barakan Isles lie just off the coast of Zingara, and they are a well-known haven for criminals of all kinds. They are a nexus of smuggling, slavery, and ill-gotten trade that is well known across all of Hyboria. Zingaran piracy is a large measure of the reason for the animosity between Zingara and Argos, and yet the Zingaran navy refuses to do anything about these pirates. Rumors abound that the Zingaran navy even has a hand in the piracy themselves, or that they at least profit from it. The Argosi High King would well love for the Argosi navy to purge the waters off the Zingaran coast, but few things would unify the Zingaran cities more quickly than an incursion from without. The Zingarans do have a very deep sense of national identity. They compete with one another with a machismo that outshines even the Condottieri and Argos, but they still have a firm sense of what makes Zingaran identity. They band together quickly in the face of threats from without, but dissolve just as quickly back into infighting and backstabbing as soon as the threat has passed. Zingarans may have a robust sense of honor, but Their pride ensures that this is never anything more than poisonous. They will take offense at even the smallest perceived slight, and any injury must be answered for in order not to invite further dishonor. Feuds can stretch for so long that families forget what initially started them, remembering only that they must carry on the contention for the sake of honor. The actions of family members reflect upon the entire clan, and familial status is of utmost importance. Pedigree is important among the nobility of Zingara, and they often arrange marriages between related branches of vast, carefully curated family trees. This ensures a vicious cycle of competition throughout Zingara. Nobles and commoners alike compete to prove themselves in the hopes that they can rise in station. They care for their reputations to an obsessive degree, and Zingarans challenge each other to duels at the slightest provocation. Dueling is so common that it has become a part of the nation's identity. Beware should you ever need to face a Zingaran in single combat, my boy. They are famed across Hyboria for their supreme skill with the sword. There are no better individual duelists in all the known world. Dozens of individual sword schools are scattered among Zingaran cities, but none so potent or widespread as the Koldovan dueling style. The techniques from the Koldovan school are legendary. Even your father has trained in them, my prince. He learned the school while serving the Zingaran High King as a mercenary, though he has often said that the backbiting politics of the Zingaran court soon soured him on the nation. Koldova is not just renowned for its swordsmen, my boy. The city is by far the largest and grandest in all of Zingara. It sits within the Black River Delta on the shore of the Western Ocean, and it is the largest port in Zingara, the second largest in all of Hyboria. Indeed, it is second only to Messantia in Argos. Koldova is by far the wealthiest city in Zingara. It has always been the seat of the High King in Zingara for what little that title means. For most of their history, those same erstwhile kings have poured their endless coffers out over Koldova in an effort to prove their right to rule to the rest of the nobility. The streets are wide, level and clean, the buildings faced in pristine marble and beautiful frescoes. It is a place filled with lush gardens, where the climate is pristine and the sun near daily shines with a warm golden hue. Every kind of fruit is grown in Koldova, and the palace stretches over an entire section of the city. The palace of the king is a monument unto itself, an unending labyrinth of high-ceilinged rooms filled with beautiful paintings, statues, and tinkling fountains. The floor there is made of polished crystal. It is a sight of rare wonder in the world, my prince. I have been blessed enough to see it during my travels, when I presented myself before King Fredrugo's court. One day, you too will see it as befitting your status as king. It is likely you will have to travel to Koldova at least once, my prince, and thus I am afraid I must no longer spin tales of wonder. I must prepare you for the truth, if you are to survive the tribulations to come. The truth is that as beautiful as Koldova is, it has its own rotting underbelly. The city has existed for so long that it has been built up on top of itself, layer by layer. Beneath the city streets are a warren of catacombs and tunnels that stretch beneath all of Koldova. These dank, dark passageways are known as the pits, and they are filled with thieves, murderers, and reprobates of all kinds. These thieves ply a trade that would make the professionals of Zamora blush. They spring forth from underground to rob, steal, and kidnap the unwary for ransom. You must be cautious at night should you ever visit Koldova, my prince. There is also a strong smuggling presence in Zingara that works hand in hand with the pirates of the Baccaran Isles. These smugglers are able to obtain goods from across Hyboria, and the black market that thrives within the pits is only surpassed by the illicit markets in Zamora. There is one final matter, my prince, though you will have to ask your father to give you the full details. You have heard me speak before about the time your father's throne was overthrown by that foul lich Zoltatun. Zoltatun was raised by Numidian scoundrels who had a desire to conquer Aquilonia. They succeeded, using foul magic to overcome our armies and install the puppet Valerius on the throne. Your father barely managed to escape captivity, and he was forced to travel the world in search of the heart of Ahriman in order to undo the power of the eldritch Zoltatun. He pursued the heart into Zingara, where he discovered it in the hands of Count Balbroso, a wicked Zingaran noble. Balbroso was eventually slain, but the heart was stolen away to Argos, and your father forced to follow. His quest was successful, of course, but in the course of his adventure, he had to face many evils and much hardship. This was before you were born, my prince. It is not my intention to overstep my place, but I thought you would find it curious to know. Perhaps you should ask your father to tell you the entire tale.
They have need of you in the throne room, my prince.
Ah, it seems our time has come to an end for today. I do not envy you the need to withstand the Zingaran delegation, my boy. I hope you have learned something that can aid you in that endeavor. You will do well, my prince. You have your father's fire, but more importantly, you have his wits. Trust to them both, my boy, and come back soon. Your education is a thing that must ever be home to remain useful. And you do an old man a service by allowing him to bend your ear. Farewell, for now.